In chapter 22 of the book, we talk about various government activities. It's titled Snapshots of Various Government Activities. And in that chapter, I make the point that government employees don't pay income taxes. I know that's controversial, and I've had a lot of comments asking for further explanation of this, so I'm going to show it to you here on the board, okay? We're going to take two examples of, we're going to use Jake and Ben. And these guys are both in the construction business, and they both earn the same amount of money, and they both pay the same amount in taxes, income taxes, to the government, supposedly. Okay, I'm going to show you how it works. Jake is in the private sector. He doesn't have any government contracts. Ben has a construction company, but he gets all of his money with government contracts. All right? Jake earns a salary of $10,000 and he pays $3,000 in taxes. At the end of the year, he keeps $7,000. We'll say that the government begins with $100,000 in its fund before it receives taxes from Jake. It receives taxes. And now the total amount in its fund is $103,000. It got the extra $3,000 from Jake. Clear so far, right? Jake has paid a net amount of taxes. The government's fund increased because he paid his taxes, $3,000. Ben's story is different. He also earns $10,000. The government withholds $3,000. At the end of the year, he's only got $7,000, even though the government said his check was going to be for $10,000, okay? He got a contract to build a building. The government said, we'll pay you $10,000 to do it. They pay him $10,000, but then they take back $3,000 in taxes. Again, we'll assume that the government's fund begins with $100,000 in it. Ben paid $3,000 in taxes, so the total is $103,000. Minus the $10,000 that the government paid him to start with. At the end of its transaction with Ben, the government's fund is less than what it was to start with. It's less by the net amount of taxes that Ben received. Okay? He did not pay $3,000 in income tax. What happened there was an accounting trick that tricks people into thinking that he paid taxes. What happened was the government said, here's $10,000. That's your salary. Whoops, give me $3,000 back. You can't have the $10,000. You can only have $10,000 minus $3,000. The net amount of money that Ben received from the government is $7,000. You understand that? Okay. So Ben is a net tax consumer. Jake is a net taxpayer. He pays net taxes in the amount of $3,000, which increases the government's fund. Ben is a net tax consumer in the amount of $7,000, which is the amount by which the government fund decreases after its transaction with Ben is finished. Note that in this scenario, it takes 2.5 Jakes to support Ben. For every Ben out there, it takes 2.5 people producing something in the economy. This is the point. Jake is paying net taxes because he actually produced $10,000 worth of value or wealth in the economy. And the government took from that amount and increased its fund. Ben created nothing of any value in the economy. He did provide a service or create something that is now owned by the public, but it's not a net increase in wealth in the economy. All he did was parasitize Jake and 1.5 other Jakes in order to earn his income. Okay, now I've used the term parasitism. I'm using that technically, okay? I'm not saying that Ben is a wicked, immoral individual. I think maybe he doesn't understand what's going on, or perhaps he feels like what he's doing is valuable, and so everybody ought to support him. Okay, my suggestion would be that he should do that on a voluntary basis, because Jake is having to pay the taxes by force. There's a very large number of them out there, and we can't afford them all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're wicked and evil. Okay, I used to be one. For 2 years I was a federal employee. There are people in my immediate family who are earning all of their money from the government, and I don't think of them as wicked, evil people. I just think of them as net tax consumers that we can't afford to keep paying forever. Okay, that's the point in chapter 22 of the book.